I mean, every time I saw her, she had nothing but a smile and nothing but a hug for me, and seemed so patient and kind and gentle and beautiful. And I just hope to have some of that and pass some of that along to my children, and that's how I want her to be remembered, or think that she would want to be remembered.
Well, I hope you both find comfort in knowing that the nation's gratitude lies with her and the other members of Flight 93. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
And in just a moment, we're going to talk about another hero from Flight 93. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lynn Doyle, here with you honoring the courage of those on Flight 93. Joining me now is Carrie Stricker, a former roommate and a very close friend to Flight 93 passenger Liz Wainio. So nice to have you with us, Carrie.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
What would you want people to know about your friend Liz?
Liz, there will never be another Liz. Liz was this incredible combination of this exuberant, buoyant, magnetic, fun-loving individual who you couldn't be in her presence and not want to be around her, be with her, be best friends with her. Yet at the same time who had this incredible drive as well, and was very committed and dedicated to her work and her career. Yet balanced that with an amazing closeness to her family that defined really who she was. When I met Liz, so I only met her 10 years before she died. We joked, the few days before returning home on the 9th of September 2011 from Paris together that we were there celebrating our 10th anniversary of friendship. But when I met her 10 years prior to that, it was when she came for a brief year to Ohio State, where I attended college, and she was there for her first year, and that's where we really bonded, because she spent her first year there and really struggled with whether to stay or not. She thought Ohio State, with this incredible place to go, really wanted to stay, but desperately missed her little sister Sarah and her parents, Ben and Esty.
But it sounds like at the young age of 27, she pretty much had it figured out. Like, she knew what was important to her and where her priorities were.
I would absolutely agree with that. I think a lot of people give lip service to trying to live their principles, live their values, and live in the moment, have a centeredness in life. Liz actually did that.
You mentioned a trip that you had taken right before September 11th. This was a destination that was on her so-called bucket list.
It was definitely on her bucket list. In fact, after she came back, I think she said to Esty, who we call her mom, her stepmother officially, but her mom, she said to Esty, after Paris, what could there be? But definitely, this was her bucket list. What the impetus for the trip was her dear friend Michelle's wedding, which was in Tuscany, but I had the incredible privilege of getting to meet up with her afterwards. She took the plane from Italy to France and then met up with me in the Loire Valley, where I have family, and then we spent time in Paris. And I had been twice before, but as with all things with Liz, it was like a new experience, because for Liz, everything, she was so exuberant about life that from the smallest thing, whether it was from tasting the most exquisite little piece of squid sushi in northern New Jersey to seeing the Eiffel Tower, her lifelong dream, for the first time, she celebrated with equal enthusiasm and equal abandon. So it really was like being in Paris for the first time.
You mentioned how close she was to her family. Was she able to reach out to anyone via the telephone while she was on the flight?
Yes, she did. So she had, I think it was an 11-minute call with Esther Hyman, Esty, her mom, her stepmother. And during that call, I've been asked a lot of times, was the topic of the conversation what was going on the plane, and it really was not. I think you can learn a lot about who Liz was by understanding what she talked about on that flight. Esty forever has my respect, admiration, and love for the way she was able to be a mom to Liz on that plane, because Liz was clearly, perhaps, I don't know what the right word is, but she clearly was anxious, had shallow breathing during that flight, and needed help being comforted. And that is what Esty did. But then when Esty had helped Liz to achieve some peace on the plane, then Liz talked about how much she loved all the important individuals in her life, named them one by one, and talked about how much harder it was going to be for those who were left behind rather than for herself. And that tells you a tremendous amount about her as a person.
It certainly does, and I can see the emotion that it brings out in you even now, some 10 years later. Immediately after her death, how were you affected psychologically?
It was quite a blow. I remember thinking a couple years into it, you know, I'm making my way through this, and I can't imagine ever experiencing anything this difficult again. My husband and I went to the crash site 4 days or 3 or 4 days after to experience the memorial, but I will go back for the first time now. Because of the need to protect myself from re-exposing myself to the rawness of emotion brought on by this event. It definitely was incredibly difficult.
Did you try to seek help from
Yes,
outside?
Absolutely. I feel very lucky to have had people actually reach out to me early on. I work at the University of Pennsylvania, and we have excellent psychology, psychiatry, therapy services at Penn, and I actually had people reach out to me within days. And so I sought therapy for myself, and then eventually my husband and I sought therapy for a period of time, because it has quite a traumatic impact on the individual, on the family, on the marital relationship. And I think, you know, certainly I did have some PTSD type symptoms that I needed help with both therapy and medication for a period of time, but it was essential to get through it. There are many things that I did.
Including running a marathon?
Yes, indeed. So many things I did to cope. So this was, of course, September of 2001. And winter is always a challenging season. I think it's dark. Winter is not the most fun season of the year, so I knew if I'm going to live through this winter, I need to do something, and I need to have it be something I can focus on. And so the first ever Washington, D.C. marathon was in March of 2002 and was dedicated not just to Flight 93, but to all the heroes, victims, family members, responders involved in 9/11. And so I ran to raise funds for the Flight 93 memorial.
Well, I'm glad that you were willing to talk about it, and we wish you continued recovery, and thank you so much for sharing your recollections and your memories of Liz.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and raising awareness of the Flight 93 memorial. It's much appreciated.
Glad to help. When we come back, we are going to talk more about the psychological impact of September 11th on all of us, and we'll explore another side of Flight 93 that often gets overlooked. Please stay with us.
It's pretty sombering. Kind of makes you realize when you sit down and think about it what these people went through to do what they did. So I think the word hero is thrown out too much nowadays, but I think these people are really heroes to do what they did.
We wanted to come see the crash site. We got to see the World Trade Center site in New York City a couple days ago, and we just wanted to see where the heroes ended and pay our respect. And it's very emotional, actually.
I think it's important to remember things that happen like this so we can be vigilant not to let them happen again.
When most of us think about Flight 93, we think about the courage those on board the flight had to fight back against the terrorist. What sometimes gets overlooked, though, is the impact and the response the flight had back on the ground. It's the epitome of small-town America, peaceful and quiet.
There was suddenly a very loud sound of the plane crashing. It